Hello everyone. Before we start this video, a quick mention about the ongoing fundraiser with Rebirth Energy to raise money for a Volkswagen T4 for the 57th Separate Motorised Brigade. Any help would be greatly appreciated. So I have a curious little video for you here. So a Ukrainian spotter drone has discovered a bunch of Russian Decoy T-72 tanks, inflatable ones. We know Russia has these and Ukraine too. But this is the first evidence, I think, of Russian ones actually being deployed in Ukraine. 3 decoys are seen, and as someone who has bought his fair share of inflatables, I can say with confidence these are high quality. They actually look pretty realistic. Until the drone zooms in, they can see the telltale signs that show that these are decoy fake tanks. And remember, many spotter drones being used provide much worse video quality than this one, so it's very possible these would actually fool some of the cheaper spotter drones because from a distance they do look pretty good until the drone zoomed in a bit. But there is an easy way to tell these apart from real Russian tanks. They still have the turret. In seriousness though, as good as these look at first glance, they do fall apart with further scrutiny. First of all, there's no tank tread marks leading to them, which makes it obvious that they were placed here. Now, that one, I'm okay with mentioning on this video, because it's been mentioned on pretty much every Twitter post about these tanks, as has the wind which has given it away, making the tanks wobble slightly. But the other flaws are less noticeable and haven't really been brought up much. Now, I'm not going to mention those because you never know if some crafty Russian in the military is watching, and I don't want to give anything away that may actually help them improve these decoys. But as an example, here are 2 drone images of abandoned Russian tanks, as an example of what an actual abandoned Russian tank would look like. These images also give a nice example of the typical spotter drone or kamikaze drone used in Ukraine and the camera quality of it. So as you can see, the image quality is much worse than the drone which observed the decoys. So I can definitely see a drone like this, or maybe one of the other types of kamikaze drones, not having clear enough video footage to tell if these were inflatables or if they're actually real T-72 tanks. So why use decoys? Well, first of all, it gets Ukraine to waste its ammunition on something pretty worthless and not very important to the war effort. A Ukrainian missile or rocket or artillery shell hitting one of these is one fewer targeting an actual active tank. Another main reason is it will also give away Ukrainian firing positions. If, say, artillery was called in to hit these decoys, then there is a very good chance that Russia may spot the firing point either because of a telltale puff of smoke from the howitzers or even with its own counter-battery radar vehicles. They might then be able to launch counterfire in an attempt to take out these valuable howitzers, so they do serve a pretty important role. From the ground, some of the obvious flaws with these decoys may be less noticeable. If an anti-tank team spotted these from a distance and thought it was an ambush or something, they're likely not going to be able to see things such as the lack of tread marks which give these decoys away. So it may make teams like this waste their NLAW or Javelin on firing them, which would then give their positions away and allow Russia to target them. So they are pretty important. But these aren't a bad idea. Ukraine too uses decoys, and we've seen videos of the Ukraine ones being effectively used. For example, there was a video of a decoy Iris-T being hit by a Lancer. So that does prove that they do work. The Ukrainian ones seem to be made out of wood and also some new metal ones being made. The metal ones being absolutely identical to actual weapon systems. They're really, really good. So they aren't a bad idea, so I can see why Russia is using them. Now, despite all that, these actually might still be worth taking out with cheap drones from a drone drop grenade. First, it will remove them from the battlefield, so another drone by a different operator doesn't make the mistake of thinking they're real and wasting a more expensive munition, such as an artillery shell or even a HIMARS rocket on them. Secondly, it would actually be cost effective to do so. These are surprisingly effective. Decoy blow up Abrams tanks, for example, are around $3,000, so they are actually quite costly. So it may actually be worthwhile taking these out with a cheap grenade. So since we've had confirmation of decoys being used, could some of Ukraine's victories over Russian tanks actually be decoys being hit. It is possible, but so far, I, nor anyone else who I'm aware of, has seen an obvious hit on a Russian decoy tank. But then the majority of videos of victories over Russian armour are shared by Ukraine, filmed by Ukrainian drones. And Ukraine wouldn't share a video of how it's us popping a bunch of balloons, basically. They'd keep that quiet. We only see the videos of the actual victories, the legitimate hits. So while I do think it likely these decoys have been used and have had some success, I think all the videos we've seen, or at least the vast majority of them, are legitimate victories, legitimate tanks being hit by Ukraine. So the numbers on Oryx won't have been inflated by the use of these decoys. Now, let's check where exactly these are. So these three decoy T-72s were clustered along this road here, next to the railway tracks. Here it is, zoomed out. So these decoys were pretty much placed north of Marinka. This is quite an active area at the moment. Here on deep states we can see these are about 2 kilometers from the front lines. And zoomed out, we can see that they're in Donetsk on the eastern front. So that's it for this video. I hope you found it interesting. If so, please click like and subscribe. I'd appreciate it. Thanks again and take care everybody.